Chapter 5. Peace and Development. Peace is very important for the survival and development of a human being. Peace expresses the development of culture and civilization. For the student of political science, the study of peace is very important as multi-phase development of citizens, internal and external peace is necessary. So, the state along with task of development is also working toward maintenance of law and order. Peace is essential for the state and at the international level. Peace, meaning, definition and scope. From ancient times, we consider peace as important for person, society, state and the world. As a result of this thinking, various philosophers, social reforms, legal practitioners and political scientists have tried to define the meaning of peace. In the Indian context, in Sanskrit, the word peace has been described as peace for human mind, peace on earth, peace in sea, peace in the space and the universe. Any social function starts with this mantra for peace. Defining peace, Professor Quincy Wright says, peace is the condition of community in which order and justice prevail internally among its members and externally in its relation with other countries. To understand the scope of peace, the thinking of various thinkers can be understood as stated below. Gandhian thought on peace. Gandhiji was a pioneer in contributing and trying to spread his ideas for peace and non-violence for India and the world. According to him, freedom from all type of exploitation is a state of peace for human being. At the same time, he opposed the use of violence for creation of an exploitation free. He used to say, truth and non-violence are my life. I cannot live without them. In Chori Chura incidents, certain villagers burned alive a policeman. At the time he stopped his Satyagraha Gandhiji and said, I have committed a mistake as big as the Himalaya. His dream was of a Sarvodaya society where there will be no exploitation and a peaceful coexistence. Karl Marx on peace. Karl Marx believed that peace can prevail only when exploitation of a person by other person and one nation by other nation comes to an end. Marx supported the path of violence, opposite to Gandhiji's path of non-violence to stop such exploitation. But to stop such exploitation, he supported a path opposite to Gandhi's path of non-violence. He believed that capitalists and landlords will not let go of their right of property without violence. Equality can be brought and peace can be established only if there is a classless society. This is possible only when we break the old exploited society through violence. Woodrow Wilson on peace. At the time of First World War, loss of life and property was very huge. The US President given a serious thought on it and he said such dangerous war should not take place. For world peace, he gave a 14-point program. One important point was that of the establishment of League of Nations. He believed that problems among various countries should be solved through peaceful decision. Only then can peace can be maintained in the world. But some of the League of Nations failed and World War II took place. The United Nations was established in the year 1945 after the end of World War II. Taking steps towards maintenance of international peace, the UN celebrates 21st September as the International Peace Day. John Galtung on peace. Today for maintenance of peace, the thought of John Galtung is gaining importance. According to him, the absence of violence is peaceful arrangement. Professor Galtung has classified violence in two categories. 1. Direct violence and 2. Indirect violence or social violence. 1. Direct violence. According to Professor John Galtung, direct violence is a situation where individual or society is thrusted, harassed, killed or mutilated. War between nations, communal riots, etc. are examples of direct violence. Along with such war, preparation for war, business of weapons, formation of army, and destruction of human resources are also part of direct violence. Second, indirect violence or social violence. According to Professor Galtoon, indirect violence or social violence is such a situation where due to injustice in the society violence occurs. According to Professor Galtoon, there are 4 characteristics of social violence. A. Exploitation. B. Forceful entry. C. Division. D. Isolation. Because of such social violence, injustice is created within the nation, community, and individuals. Because of this, the development of society cannot take place properly. Slavery system is example of this. According to Professor Galtoon, both types of violences are dangerous for peace at national and international levels. Thus, before defining the meaning and definition of peace, views of various philosophers have been taken into consideration. What follows is a discussion on how the thought of peace can be given a shape. Precondition for establishment of peace in the state. 1. Democratic arrangement. A system where people are free to present their problems to the government. To satisfy their demands, they can freely participate into politics. If required, they can oppose the government also. 2. Protection of human rights. The system should be such where human rights of all the citizens are protected. 3. Rule of law. In a legal society, all citizens are equal. If anybody violates the law, he or she can be arrested and produced before judiciary. 4. Independent and neutral judiciary system. The state provides fundamental rights to all citizens. These fundamental rights are protected by an independent and neutral judiciary system in democracy. 5. Social justice. The pride of all citizens should be protected. There should be no unequal treatment toward any citizen. 6. Participatory development. The benefits of development must reach to all equally. 7. Security. The state and society should provide a climate of security to all citizens. If such situation is provided, all citizens and individuals can develop fully. 8. Solution of international issues through discussion instead of war. For this, the UN has provided an international platform to solve issues in a peaceful manner. 9. Independent and neutral communication media. For the prevalence of peace at state and international level, the media should broadcast and publish social incidents without fear and neutrally. What are the conditions to justify war? The condition of war is curse for human beings and their culture. In spite of that, from ancient times, war has been taking place between various states. Prevention of war is a question that has pondered the humankind for a long time now. The question that stems from this is under what conditions can it be justified? Two ancient Indian epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, may provide some answers. If we study these two great epics, it appears that initially there were efforts to prevent war. The war took place finally for the removal of ills and for establishment of dharma. Chanakya in his book Kautilya Arthashastra writes that in case there is a war on one hand and a treaty on the other, and if the benefits from both are equal, we should accept treaty. According to scholars of international politics and peace, there are certain important conditions to justify war, which are as follows. 1. If there is external threat to the unity and integrity of country and which cannot be solved by peaceful efforts, then state can go for war in self-protection. 2. If there is a threat against the human rights of citizens of state or of world in case of insurgents such as by the Islamic State in Iraq or atrocities of the Taliban in Afghanistan and fought against by the NATO, that is, North Atlantic Treaty Organization states. 3. If any state is developing dangerous weapons which will be harmful for security and peace of state or states and is also dangerous for world peace, then in such situation war can be justified against them. Like the war against Germany, Japan and Italy from Allied forces, that is UK, France, USSR, America, in 1939, which was ultimately turned into the Second World War. According to Allied forces, the war against Germany, Japan, and Italy was justified. 4. When citizens of any state are living a peaceful life and their way of life is under attack by terrorists, then the state can declare a war against them. When there was a terrorist attack on two centers of World Trade Center and Pentagon on 11 September 2001, USA President George Bush declared war against terrorism, which was also approved by UN. 5. If any area of state or state itself has been snatched or property is looted, then in such a condition war can be declared. For instance, in the year 1962 and 1965, China and Pakistan seized some parts of India respectively, and India declared war against them. Justifying war many times also calls for self-introspection. Example, for War of 1962, China claims that war was started by India. Thus, justifying a war is difficult and subjective. War is a great destroyer of human beings and property. According to many scholars, the First and Second World War were very painful, but due to the wars, many new inventions were created. Disarmament and world peace in reference to peace. The state needs traditional weapons to maintain internal law and order and for external security. Such weapons are almost necessary, but it is necessary to destroy atomic, nuclear, chemical, and virus weapons. The reduction of such weapons first and then followed by their destructions is termed as disarmament. The meaning of destruction of weapons, however, does not mean that states should be without weapons. The First and Second World War created much havoc which encouraged the idea of disarmament and emphasized the necessity of world peace. After victory in Kalinga and on noticing the heavy loss of life during the war, the distressed king Ashoka gave up all weapons. This is an incident of disarmament at the state level. At the international level, in 1899, in Hague, a council of 28 states passed a resolution to prohibit poisonous gas and destroyers weapons for the first time, atomic weapons and disarmament. For peaceful life of human beings and establishment of a peaceful relationship among states of world, disarmaments of atomic weapons has been emphasized. For this, scholars give the following arguments. 1. These weapons are very destructive. Today, the United States of America, Russia, and China possess powerful atomic weapons which can destroy at a magnitude that is much greater than the weapons unleashed at the end of the World War II, when America attacked the two towns of Hiroshima and Nagasaki of Japan with atomic bomb. India and Pakistan also possess such weapons. It is a possibility that the atomic weapons of small states of Pakistan and North Korea may be captured by terrorist groups. If this happens, there can be serious damage and great loss of human life. 2. Increase in defense expenses. Many countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America got independence after 1945. Due to servility for a long period, these newly framed states remain economically and socially backward. Such states should reduce their defenses expenditure and money should be spent towards development. But superpowers of the world have partnered them during the Cold War and have encouraged them to acquire weapons. As a result, their expenditure on defense has kept on increasing, and these nations have become indebted. Disarmament provides a way out of this indebtedness. 3. Creating a market for atomic weapons by the atomic powers. After 1945, countries like USA, Soviet Union, Britain, France, and China started manufacturing of atomic weapons and in search of market to sell atomic weapons and technology. They encouraged wars between newly formed developing countries. There were many wars between developing countries like India, Pakistan, Arab Israel, and Iran, Iraq. Because of this, there was loss of lives along with a hit to the economics of these countries. 4. Economic burden on superpower. Immediately after Second World War, a Cold War started between the USA and the Soviet Union. A Cold War is a strenuous situation. Here, both the parties do not directly declare a war on each other, but always prepare themselves for a potential war and keep at creating new weapons. When a new state was formed after the start of the Cold War, both the USA and the Soviet Union tried to influence the state to join their side of the war and accordingly made that state strong. From such a point, a political game of economic support and providing defense security started. This led to a competition of weapons between the USA and the Soviet Union and resulted in an increase in the stock of atomic weapons started increasing. After many years, these two superpowers realized the economic burden of these weapons race. However, Soviet Union was impacted more because of this race than the USA. As a result, these two superpowers started negotiations for disarmament and meetings were held between heads of these two states and pacification done. Efforts for disarmament. The efforts for disarmament may be considered to be made as follows. 1. Efforts by international organizations. 2. Efforts by nation-states. 1. Efforts by international organizations toward disarmament. At the international level, the differences and issues between states and states should be solved by discussion rather than war. The first efforts in this direction of disarmament for world peace were done in 1899 and 1907 in Assembly meeting at Hague. In present Assembly, 26 states participated, while in second Assemblies, 44 states participated. In spite of that, due to various reasons, in 1914, the First World War took place. The League of Nations was established under the 14 Points Program of USA by President Woodrow Wilson. The main objective of this was to prevent war and establish of peace and safety. The League of Nations made certain definite efforts for world peace. But due to various reasons, the League of Nations failed and the Second World War took place. To prevent the recurrence of such destructive war in future, in 1945, United Nations was established, which is known as the UN. In the first general meeting of UN, in 1946, there was serious decision for disarmament and it was decided to constitute an Atomic Power Commission. By a proposal forwarded by Soviet Union in 1959, it was possible for all members states to become member of this commission. Initially membership was given to 10 states, which increased to 18 in later stage. A treaty was signed by this commission for part control on weapons and on collection of missiles. The United Nations declared 1970 as the start of decades of disarmament. In the year 1975, during the General Body meeting of UN, Soviet Union and later China proposed the reduction in competition for missiles. The year 1986 was declared as International Year of Peace by UN. In the year 1998, India proposed an agenda for reduction in atomic weapons. 2. Initiative for disarmament by states. Many states volunteered for disarmament to save themselves from the destruction. In 1945, USA, Britain, and Canada proposed for United Nations Commission to look into the destructive nature of atomic weapons. USA President Eisenhower declared Atom for Peace in 1953. In 1972, a treaty was signed by Soviet Russia and USA to reduce missiles. In the year 1974, a treaty was signed by the two superpowers to stop states from being atomic power and also to stop underground testing of atomic weapons. Soviet Russia agreed to destroy 270 old missiles by 1981 and USA agreed to destroy namely 32B by 1985. USA and Soviet Russia signed START 1, that is Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty 1, and START 2 in the year 1982 and 1991, respectively, to reduce atomic weapons. President Mikhail Gorbachev in 1991, at the time of separation of Soviet Russia, and later on President Putin willingly agreed for decreasing atomic weapons and brought an end to Cold War to come out from economic recession in Soviet Russia. After atomic tests in 1974 and 1998, India became an atomic power. But India has promised to use atomic power for development and constructive work. Thus, from beginning, United States and member states have put efforts for disarmament and it will continue. But in international politics, there still is dispute among states. It is difficult to disappear completely. But it can be said that they disagreed for the consequences of war, which was at the time of First and Second World Wars has decreased. However, we still witness that countries like North Korea are busy in building their defenses. China has been increases got used to the habit of occupying others' land. Violent terrorist groups like Islamic State are also spreading fear. Economic progress through liberalization, privatization, and globalization and development of information technology and air services has made the world a small village. Borders of states have thinned and states are becoming dependent on each other. The ideal concept of international citizenship is closer to reality. To efforts to remove all obstacles in the path of development of all societies of world on a peaceful path should be undertaken by the United Nations and all members. What is development? Definition and meaning. Because of Industrial Revolution, the process of industrialization, modernization, and urbanization started. Asian and African markets were identified for wholesale goods, and from this exploitation by the colonists and imperialism started. After the First and Second World Wars, many countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America got independence. These newly formed states were referred to as developing countries. Now we will discuss the development of these countries. Meaning of development. 2 points are important in the discussion of the concept of development. 1. The meaning of development is not only economic growth. It is very difficult concept. Aspects like environment, technology, economic, political, social, and cultural aspects are also considered for it. 2. Human beings are at the core to the process of development, where human needs, culture, pride, and environmental changes taking place in social and physical contexts are seen with reference to human relations. Looking to the meaning of development, we will examine the development of developing countries. In 1974, in a report by the World Bank, it was mentioned that per capita income of developing countries has increased by 50%. But this income was unequal among states and social groups. The casual workers of urban areas, semi-unemployed, small farmers in rural areas, agricultural laborers, and other laborers were not able to fulfill even their basic needs. In such a condition, the capital from developed states and multinational companies who invest in foreign countries is utilized for latest technology, knowledge management, market services knowledge, skill development for employees, and skilled workers and economic development of developing countries. This objective has been achieved up to certain level. But majority of population of these countries are undeveloped or live below poverty line. It is necessary that the benefits of development reach the entire population. For this, people participation is necessary in economic decentralization. If people participate in the decision-making process and help in resolving problems related to public, only then can economic and political equality be brought about. Development should accompany environment preservation and protection. Developed countries of West have used natural resources quite haphazardly, which has created nature's imbalance. Now, China and India are also following the same path. Model for a multi-phase development. A report on international condition of development, the limit to growth, was published by an international non-government organization, that is NGO, Club of Rome in the year 1972. According to this report, if we destroy the available natural resources for development at the present rate, then by next 100 years, the earth will reach to its highest level of destruction. This report initiated discussion on development and environmental worldwide. Development should not at the cost of environment. Accordingly, the concept of multi-phase development was developed where the basic needs of all along with social, economic, and political needs of society and state are fulfilled along with development of culture. In 1983, the United Nations appointed a commission under the chairmanship of Norway ex-Prime Minister Mr. Brundtland. In 1987, the commission published its report, Our Common Future, in which it was recommended that the vision for development should be very broad and developed, and developing countries were requested to maintain ecological balance. It also recommended a new concept of sustainable development where balance between the drive for economic growth while preserving the plant's fragile ecosystem should be adopted. This model of development is useful for future also. A development where development does not destroy nature, where people are at the center of development and the basic needs of all are fulfilled, and that takes care for present and future generation can be called sustainable development. Challenge for development between present and future generation. During 1970, in a blind race for development, Western countries started believing that without damaging the natural resources, economic development is not possible. Identifying this, Mr. Brundtland Commission said that if the world is going on this way of development, then nothing will remain for our future generation. So the present generation should use these natural resources in such a way that the interest of future generation is not damaged. In other words, such a model of development will be sustainable development. The World Bank has also supported such sustainable human development in its report of 1992 and 2003. Thus, comprehensive and sustainable development is an important issue for human being, ecology, and for world peace. Such development will take care of interest of the future generation and preserve natural resources. The supporters of newly developed green ideology in the West have also supported this idea of development. According to them, such development will support reasonable economic development, social responsibility, people's participation, and preserve the values of non-violence,